Commission of Grand Marais. And today we have Stacy, we have Ben, and we have myself. And we have an agenda before us. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Awesome. So first, we're going to jump right into I missed the names. Oh, the Niram, is that right?
Perfect.
And Sugnet.
Sunye.
Very close. So close, but not really.
Close.
All right, well, thank you guys for being here. So commissioners, obviously this, you presumably have probably taken a look and seen where it is and all that jazz. And obviously we don't have a lot of neighbors, and from what I heard, we didn't get any comments, Patrick, is that correct? No comments. So we kind of have to just think about the future. But from what I could see and the adjustments that they made and the reasonings for the adjustment seemed reasonable to me. But what do our commissioners think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I drove out there, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, it's hard to look down the road
Right.
30 years, 40 years, whatever, but if it looks like the last 30, it probably would look similar.
Well, no, we're hoping more and more.
I did have a question. Would you
Yeah, do you
mind
mind,
coming up and
coming
so I can just
forward?
ask you a couple of quick questions?
And
Looks
just,
like
well,
you
hold on.
have
State your name and who you are and what you.
I'm Mark Miram,
Okay.
property owner.
Nice to meet you. It looks like you have another lot as well. There's not. I
No,
thought
we
there
only
were
own
two.
one.
Okay.
I think that was just, he was talking, the previous owners had both. of those.
Okay.
I got a little confused by that,
That
too.
makes sense. Okay,
Okay.
because I was like, boy, that one didn't have. You could have put this right on there without impacting wetland. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Any,
So, I mean, in short, if the variance was not approved, you could still go ahead with the project. You would just have to do some wetland work.
Yeah, that
Is
would be
basic?
one tact, or we would maybe look at redesigning, but we spent a lot of time trying to
Yeah,
fit this into the lot that
Yeah.
way. And we met with Mitch out on the site, and then his suggestion was to ask for a variance to help move the site over a little bit.
I mean, I don't think there's no guarantee that if they had to comply with the setbacks, that they'd be able to.
got it.
you, Brad.
Okay. That was basically my two questions.
I just had one. So I noticed the driveway is going in the right-of-way off the end of the pavement. Do we as a city grant the okay for that, or do we?
We have a license agreement that we use for that,
A license?
and there's a half dozen of them in town,
Okay. And so,
including the
like-
neighbors a block away.
Okay.
Sorry, Stacy, could I adjust your mic a little bit?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
The one pointed toward the ground.
So
Good catch.
how does that work then, if at some point we decide to make that road
Yeah,
continue on?
the license agreement states it's the homeowner's responsibility to construct and maintain the driveway. The space that's in the public area is open to the public. And if we ever need the space for public purposes, they have to remove the driveway.
Okay.
And if the public purpose is we're building a street, they don't need the driveway.
Yeah, okay.
This driveway is still within the setback, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this doesn't go to the west of the property.
Yeah.
And
Right,
so
it's
this little,
just this
just this
little-
little chunk on the end of the road that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
subject to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just want to know who owns it and who's building it.
Yeah, we don't,
Yeah.
We don't assume any responsibility for maintaining it, and we retain all control of the space if we need it for public purposes, but it doesn't create an issue. And like I said, there's probably about half dozen of them in town.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't vacating.
No,
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, but otherwise, I guess I didn't have any problem with this.
Okay. Brandon, did you have anything that you wanted to ask about this property?
Not at the present time, no.
Okay, well, this is our time. So if we have one,
Then I have nothing.
okay, good.
I would
Very-
put a motion to approve the Niram Sune variance request.
All right, that's great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There we go. That'll go before the city council next
next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
All right, then we'll go to our conditional use. Presumably, we're all familiar with this site. Again, as I'm sure many of you either have seen it in the past or recently. I mean, I drove out there, but I was pretty sure I knew exactly what they were talking about, so I just went and drove through and looked at it. So did you guys have any thoughts or comments? Anything, again, we didn't get any outside comments about it, which makes sense since it's pretty much obscured from all sides. So it's not really gonna impact any neighbors or anything like that.
We did have a neighbor stop by City Hall and
Oh.
ask some questions about it, but she didn't have any comments.
Oh, okay. What were the questions?
Just wanted to know more about what was going on.
Okay.
Just exactly what we're hoping people do when we send them a notice.
Yeah, all right. Good deal. So, Ben, Brandon, Stacy, did you have any thoughts or questions?
So they need a conditional use permit because it's
Because it's single,
a single-family home.
Yeah.
yeah.
But you can have all these other things.
Yes.
They could make it,
No.
if they made
I
it 4
thought-
units, they could do it without asking.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, the inducement is to, we want multifamily, right?
Okay.
Especially in that area, but in this particular instance, this makes sense.
Yeah.
I-
All right.
To me.
I was just trying to remember when we changed everything.
Right.
Wait a minute, I thought we said
Yeah,
housing,
'cause-
but you're right, it was
Yeah.
we were multi, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
because we had who was it? Somebody who owned a property over there was wondering about that. He was like very like, why not? You know, it's like, no, we can. It's conditional
Right.
use.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
thanks for clarifying that. Yeah,
that-
certainly understand the reason why he needs to do.
For sure,
that.
yeah. Year-round employee housing, that's important stuff. I would entertain a motion from anyone.
I'll move.
All right,
Second.
all right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, also, we'll go to the council next week. And now for the big fun. So I know you guys chatted last time about the solid waste dealio. I honestly did not see this until only a little bit ago. So
Okay.
Me too.
Okay, all right, good, because I'm like, I can't even consume this in that amount of time.
I don't think you necessarily need to.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's got a lot of example language for you to look at if you're interested in how to write the rules. But the question, in my mind, still is, what's the focus area here? And I think that you were hoping to get some more feedback about that from the council and from the mayor. And this, the beginning of this memo is the mayor's kind of bullet points of things to think about. And there's some guidance on what your focus area could be.
And, I mean, I should know, but I don't. We don't really have any guidance at this point.
We do, actually, and I'd like to
Okay.
show it to you.
Well, that'd be great.
We'll wait for the header bar to go away. This is our website, and the link on our website to our municipal code. And I've just typed in garbage. And here we have all of the exact matches of where it exists. So I've clicked on storage, transportation, and disposal. So this section of the code, Chapter 15 says garbage and similar waste shall be stored in durable, rust-resistant, not absorbent, watertight, rodent-proof, easily cleanable containers with close-fitting, fly-tight covers having adequate handles to facilitate handling, or others acceptable to the solid waste collection service. I think that this whole section here covers a lot of the ground of what is included in these examples when it comes to make sure that the containers are adequate. So we do have good language, but is it specific enough? And then maybe the next question is it the ordinance that's the issue, or is it something about how we communicate it, or is it the lack of enforcement of it? That's something to think about. But let's keep going on what else we've got here.
Okay.
The first public nuisance affecting health that we have on our list says failure to keep waste, refuse, or garbage in an enclosed building or properly contained in a rodent-free, fly-tight, closed container designed for such purposes. So I think the idea of garbage becoming a mess, not being protected, we've got a lot of good language about in our existing city code. Where I think we're a little remiss is we have nothing about dumpsters, right?
Okay.
We've got some screening, but this screening is all going to show us things in our
Yeah.
zoning ordinance.
Right.
And I don't think any of them are going to be dumpsters, but let's just check and see. So we had this conversation, I don't know how many of you remember, we talked about screening when we were talking about
Right.
residential uses in the highway mixed use. So, but nothing about garbage or dumpsters here. In the business park, we have screening requirements, but this is basically lots from each other and from the road. It's not talking about garbage there. Now, large apartment dwellings actually do have a specific requirement for exterior waste and recycling facilities, location, and screening. I think this is the kind of language that we might consider just more broadly applied to other uses.
Mhm.
There's also parking screening requirements. I think that's all.
Now, now I could be wrong, but my recollection of what Tracy was driving at was more having to do with dumpsters not being on the properties of the owners and being out in our public right-of-way. Is that?
That's for sure one of the catalysts of this issue.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I think maybe not that specifically, but just do property owners plan for an adequate space and facility to handle their waste? And when we have a zone, a number of our commercial zones which don't have setback requirements, and you can build lot line to lot line, and then you need a dumpster, well, you missed your opportunity to handle it on your own property, and then what happens? A number of different things, and
Yeah.
some of them are an issue. So if we had screening requirements like this, and then also just some language that talks about a requirement for a property to plan for adequately their waste, I think that covers the issues that she was talking about.
Sure.
And was screening really part of it, or, I wasn't entirely sure about that. Yeah?
I think so,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Screening as far as a structure around the dumpster,
Yeah,
or
something
just
so you-
hiding it away
just
from
hiding it.
view?
I mean, it-
Okay.
Yeah, screen from public view.
okay.
So it doesn't have to be a physical barrier per se.
It's typically
Yeah.
fencing, if you
Okay.
think about dumpsters in commercial areas, but sometimes
But
it
if it
can
were
just
like
be
around the corner of
the building screens it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be, there's a hedge that screens it.
Sure.
Yeah.
From all sides? I mean,
From public view, and I think.
but if
that-
I walk down an alley, is that okay? I walk down an alley,
Yeah,
am
now,
I?
that's the sort of issue I think that's worth spending a little time thinking about.
Yeah, I guess that's where I don't know, just because I got more of the like, you have to take care of it on your property, not the public's property.
Yeah.
I think that was more what I got. And the screening, that might be an extra added bonus, but I think planning to take care of your garbage and having a space for it is what
Yeah.
really, I think, needs to happen.
So I can see the utility in that moving forward for new construction as we
Right.
develop downtown, et cetera, right? So, but how do we take care of the garbage dumpsters that we have now,
Right.
right? And-
Well-
and-
I mean, I guess we can push for, I mean, how many can't do it? I guess that was the
Sure,
question. because
that'd be a
maybe
good question, yeah.
There
Maybe
are
then-
some, and I think it's not worth pointing out specifics tonight,
Okay.
just because.
But
Yeah.
there
I
are
don't
some
need to
that
drag them
can't
into
do
it,
it.
but there definitely are properties that don't have any space for dumpsters and
Okay.
need a dumpster.
Hmm.
Okay.
So some situations, we've tried to help neighbors talk to each other a little bit about that. I think that's one strategy. If you think about parking for our rental properties downtown or our housing downtown, we require parking. There are some properties that have residential, but they don't have space for parking, and so we said it has to be within a certain distance of your property. So if you miss the boat, you don't have room, you can find another person's private property where you can share a dumpster or lease space or cooperate in some way so that your issues can be handled even if you don't have space on your property.
That seems fair.
And I think we don't necessarily need a rule that says you can't use public space for the permanent storage of your anything, because, you know, we can tell someone to remove their stuff from public space if we say it's in the way. We don't need a new rule for that.
Right.
But maybe a rule that says you need to provide for this on yours or someone else's private property within a certain distance. And it helps us navigate that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That would seem a fair way to approach it.
Yeah.
What do you think? You okay?
So are we looking mostly at, so specifically, we're not talking about residential here, right? We're talking about downtown, maybe mixed use, maybe some of
Yeah,
those corridors, or like, are we
I mean, it
are we
does-
looking at residential as well?
I don't think that was, well, it certainly wasn't the mayor's focus. But, and I don't think that it would apply necessarily to, I mean, most homes can easily deal with it.
Right.
I mean, that's not
Yeah.
a thing. It really is, I think, a going forward, we would like to make sure that any new building, new construction will be mindful of having space for their dumpster and whatnot, and that any of the people in the past who have already built up, because we said they could, and we say, well, maybe you can coordinate with a neighbor and just cooperate, and like, hey, can I put mine there too, and they can both get picked up at the same time, blah, 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 you know, or whatever.
Yep.
Whatever arrangement they would like to make. But we do need it solved. I guess that's the other thing. Like, even though they missed the boat, we still need that solved. So we still need a rule to establish that, I think.
So we are talking about physical properties, not food
Not
trucks.
metaphysical? Oh.
No,
Oh.
I mean, the municipal code, I mean, how would that apply to transient? No, I don't have a one spot
Mhm.
Yeah.
parcel.
The language that we've seen on that, because of course we've looked at that issue recently too, is probably not in code, but maybe we might think about putting it in code for next year. But for sure, it's part of the licensing requirement. Since those transient uses are licensed through the city, we can require them to have garbage cans out while they're in operation and put the garbage away while they're not in operation.
And that's out there now, or that's what could be?
Well, that's what we've been telling folks
Oh, okay. Got
to
it.
do now.
Good.
Okay.
But you're saying that we can make it part of the code as well? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it lives in code, but or if it's necessary to codify it.
And maybe it's not, maybe we just say this is part of our licensing agreement.
Yeah, if you want a license to do this, this is
wanna
our
do this work
requirements. If
here,
you don't follow
okay.
our
Yep.
requirements, then you don't get a license.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Seems,
So I'm not
Good.
sure how I feel about the screen from public view yet.
Okay.
you mean you want it, you don't want it, you don't care?
I don't know that I care. I mean,
I don't care.
yes, I do if it's on Main Street and if it's on your alley.
If it's on your-
Except, okay, I'm thinking where I rode my bike today, Dairy Queen, and, okay, there's lots of people back there.
Yeah,
There's propane tanks, there's dumpsters, there's garbage cans.
and that is a space that's really in transition right now. We're gonna be paving there next week, and this has been an ongoing conversation with the adjacent property owners, where this used to be the backyard.
Yeah.
But Dairy Queen's done a ton of work to really improve their space, and
Mhm.
we're gonna be improving the alleyway. The Birch Bark Building's actually putting entrances on the alleyway to use it as a partially kind of a front face of the building. It's not the backyard anymore.
Right, so what do we say is a backyard, and
Mm.
if it's the back of my building,
Right. And
it's
there's,
the back of your
the
building.
front of the co-op is an alley, it's not a
Yeah.
street. So if we were to talk about alleys as how you locate these things, or where it needs to be, doesn't need to be screened, it's not, it'd be tough to figure out how to write that in a real specific way.
But I also think that people, don't want to seem like, hey, come to my dumpster. They do want to have things put away
Yeah.
and looking good. I mean, we could create a rule. I don't know if we need to create a rule.
Well, I think the biggest issue is probably just the day-to-day maintenance of folks' garbage. Like,
Right.
if you're not keeping it rodent-proof or seagull-proof in this case, that creates a lot of issues.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe the next issue is that we don't require them to think about it, and it ends up in public space sometimes, or they just don't have any way to deal with it. The screening might be the last of those issues, and the one where they actually do have a vested interest. And yet, if there's a big pile of trash all over your dumpster, what? Clearly, you're not interested in screening it either if you're not interested in picking up
Me-
after it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and then what kind of obstacle does screening create for the hauling?
That's what I was thinking too.
Traffic,
Mhm.
I mean, so
I mean, we want to make it as easy for
it's a big route.
everybody to do their job, and
Well,
get it-
harken back to our existing language right here on storage. We specifically call out that the containers have to be acceptable to the solid waste collection service.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so we could use language like that if we're going to have screening requirements.
Sure.
The screening has to be acceptable to the hauler. Like, you can't make it impossible for them to get their truck at your dumpster.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think when we do have a draft, if we're going to do an ordinance, we'll ask them to look at it with us. Make sure that we thought of everything that they would think of.
Yeah, right. 'Cause they think about it a lot more than we do. For sure.
Okay. Well, this makes more sense.
Yeah, so what more would you like? I mean, I do think that it would be good to have the on your property. You have to somehow manage your garbage, make a plan for it. If you're gonna build a new building, you need to plan to have garbage taken away. And then the screening, I don't know, I mean, I'm not invested in that so much, but it doesn't seem like a horrible idea to like say like, okay, screen your garbage in a way that's acceptable to the haulers and.
Here's my recommendation. If you like those 3 issues as the ones to cover, in that order and kind of that level of
Okay,
importance,
and
we're not sure about
what's the
screening.
order again?
Make sure that we've got good language about maintaining your facilities.
Okay, yeah, maintenance.
Then talk about, make sure you have a space for your facilities. And then talk about screening your facilities.
Yeah.
So those issues, I'm not sure whether we want to call out commercial zones or commercial uses, but we'll do something like that. And we'll put a draft together that tries to distill kind of these examples, what we've got already, and some of these examples from other cities, and try to cover those issues and bring it to your next meeting. So you'll have an actual draft to look at, and then we can talk about, is that what we meant when we said screening? Does that work
Sure,
for us?
Sure,
Right.
okay. That makes sense.
And then I'll just say, take a look at these examples, take a look at our existing city code. It's very searchable, super easy to find what you might be looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And if you've got other things you want to make sure we throw in that draft, just send us a note, and we will.
Okay.
That's great. All right. Well, with that, commissioners, I would say we are adjourned.
Great.
Okay.